News!
My hope is that the fight goes on in the UK. I don't care what the money is. You know, fans are fans. And I think both fighters owe the UK fans a tremendous event in Wembley or Cardiff or any, one of your great venues, rather than take the fight to a foreign country.
I can only speak from a fight fan's perspective.
Go on, what's happened? Go on. A bit worried about this.
I'm just, he says one thing, Bob says one thing, you say one thing, and I just feel like since there's only one truth, why are there so many conflicting stories on what's actually happened?
The best thing to do in that situation, believe me. When Bob said, I saw a quote last night where Bob said, let's do the fight in the UK. Right?
Yeah.
Well, the fight's going to be in February. So what you're saying, Bob, you want to do the fight in the Millennium Stadium, yeah? You a big fan of Cardiff, are you, Bob?
It's free safe.
We should take this, we need to give this fight to the British fans. Well, he talks absolute bollocks. He couldn't give a shit about the British fans. All he wants is the money, right? And if we do the fight in Britain, the fighters will make half the money they would elsewhere. Half the money. That means he will make half the money. Do you think Bob Arum is going to make half the money because of his love for British fight fans? Put that question to you, and I know you would, right? Do me a cheesy quaver. No chance. And by the way, it's an easy fight to make. Put that question to you, and I know you would, right? That's what he said last night. It's an easy fight to make. Put that question to you, and I know you would, right? Yeah, it's so easy. I knocked my bollocks out for 6 months to make it. I got I got the biggest site deal in the history of the sport, and we still couldn't make it. That's how easy it was to make. Put that question to you, and I know you would.
One is left to wonder what the real nature of Bob Arum's comments are in reference to Joshua versus Fury potentially landing in the United Kingdom as opposed to Saudi Arabia, where both the fighters and all the aforementioned parties stand to make the most money, because nobody believes he gives a flying fuck about the British fight fans. Nobody actually believes that Bob Arum's heart bleeds for the Union Jack.
Give me a break.
Bob's just as focused on how much money this thing makes as everybody else. And in truth, I don't even hold it against him.
I don't blame him.
But I don't know who he thinks he's fooling with all this God Save the Queen stuff. I mean, seriously, what's his angle here? And the only way I can reconcile Bob Arum's newfound love for British boxing fans is that maybe this is damage control, because many of those British boxing fans that he is attempting to appeal to right now are very angry, very vexed, terribly, with his fighter. The collapse of Joshua versus Fury has left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. The UK fight fans in particular. They were ready to see that fight, and
so what happened?
Between the empty promises that Bob himself made that the mediation arbitration wouldn't be an issue, those empty promises, Tyson Fury's assurances right before the arbitrator ruled
that the fight was on,
only for all of that to go up in smoke, the fight fans noticed how neither Tyson Fury or Bob Arum were all that broken up about it, and it's given them the sense that they're being taken for a ride, and nobody likes that.
Nobody likes being lied to.
The disdain for Tyson Fury, the disdain for this Wilder trilogy, it's palpable.
A lot of people are really fucking pissed off.
And Bob's got to give him something. Something more than just this trilogy, which they weren't all that excited about anyway. What he can give them is hope. The hope that Joshua versus Fury will land in the United Kingdom, so many of those fight fans can be in attendance, even though in reality, Bob has no intention of staging the fight there, and even if he did, he's not the lead promoter. He wasn't the last time when the fight was being negotiated. It was Eddie Hearn doing all the legwork, not Bob Arum, not Frank Warren, not anybody on Tyson Fury's side of things. Essentially, it's not even a decision that Bob can make. If his fighter wants it in Saudi Arabia so he can get the most money that he can get, then that's where it's going to be.
What do you think, Tyson Fury stands for ceremony?
If he makes it through the Wilder fight, and he moves on from that to have the Joshua undisputed heavyweight title cloche, Fury don't care about those belts. He's not doing this from a sense of legacy. He's doing it because of the payday. He's doing it because of the money. I don't even hold that against him, but let's be honest here. Let's be honest with each other, and let's be honest with ourselves. That's the appeal of this fight for Tyson Fury and Bob Arum. He's not excluded.
If they even want it.
So many thoughts on this. what should otherwise be a relatively simple affair has become a convoluted mess where I myself don't know what to feel. I don't actually know that Fury and Bob want the fight all that bad when they seemed to have been rather counterproductive throughout when Eddie Hearn was attempting to negotiate the fight, attempting to get the guys the kind of money that they all want. It was Tyson and Bob and Frank that were casting an air of doubt over everything. In some ways, it feels like they sabotaged the fight, were a party to that sabotage themselves. So I just don't know. But what I do know is that if they do want the fight, if they do, it's got less to do with legacy and more to do with finance.
Bob's heart don't bleed for Britain.
I don't even hold it against him. I don't expect it to. But we have to bring this to light when he puts on this facade, this charade, that he'd prefer that the fight land in the UK as opposed to somewhere else. You prefer that the fight land wherever it makes the most money, the same way that most any and every promoter worth his own weight in news here wants the fight to land wherever it makes the most money. I mean, come on, Bob. Come on.
If this is anything, this is damage control.
If this is anything, this is Bob attempting to appeal to the UK fight fans by giving them something to look out for and look forward to, the Joshua Fury fight, to thereby get those same fight fans interested in this trilogy, which has been a tough sell throughout. If you want my opinion, and you're here, so I'll assume that you do, that's what I think this is.
Damage control.
Because Bob Arum don't give a rip about the fish and chips crowd. In other news, on the heels of Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant's collapse, a rather surprising turn of events from none other than the former WBO light heavyweight champion, Sergey Kovalev. He says, "Hey, Canelo, first of all, I'll be honest with yourself, and then let's make a rematch. If you are a real champ and want to prove that you are the best boxer in the world, right now, you have a lot of choices of boxers who wants to fight you because of a lot of money. Yeah, and you're one of them.
Right.
But I'm ready to fight you in our rematch just for free to prove that you got me when I was not at my best condition. It's, for me, is the most motivation to fight in my life and my boxing career. And I'm sure that I will get the victory under you. Let's make this fight. If you are the real man to happen for this fight, you're wasting your time."
Yeah,
all right?
you are.
The reality of these situations is there are a lot of fight fans that actually agree with Sergey Kovalev that Canelo caught him at an opportune time, that perhaps Sergey could have done with more time to prepare for the fight, but Sergey signed on the dotted line, and he was under no obligation to do so. See, these violins that guys like to play after a fight fall on deaf ears with that many more fight fans, because ultimately, Sergey, if you don't like the conditions, then don't take the fight.
But if you take the fight, don't cry about it.
And you took the fight. Don't cry about it afterwards. Don't cry about it now.
Because that just makes you a sourpuss.
Any of your sympathizers, they're sourpusses too. If you don't like the conditions, you don't sign on a dotted line and you don't take the fight. And you suffer whatever repercussions that yields. You're a grown man, free to make your own decisions.
Suffer the consequences of them.
Yeah, I saw what a lot of people had to say after that Sergey Kovalev fight. They thought Sergey took a dive or he wasn't really trying. All very convenient explanations intended to explain why it is a fighter that they don't like beat a fighter that they do like. That's all it is.
So obvious.
I saw that fight. And what I saw in that fight was a very defensively responsible Sergey Kovalev, who chose to use his lead hand the majority of the fight and not committing to it, not bringing over the big right hand, because Sergey Kovalev, he don't take the best punch these days. So he's got to try to stick and move and pity-pat this guy, shorten up those punches so he doesn't leave himself out there for a counter shot, because should he get countered, he'll get stopped. And eventually that's what happened, because I reiterate, Sergey, these days, he don't take the best punch.
Because he doesn't take care of himself.
We've known about that for a while. Sergey Kovalev is a raging alcoholic, right up there with Errol Spence Jr. Before Errol Spence flipped that Ferrari and incapacitated himself, Sergey Kovalev ran himself off the road, almost got killed.
Driving under the influence.
Guy don't take care of himself between fights, and because of that, he don't take the best punch, especially these days. In that Canelo Alvarez fight, what I saw was a guy who was shortening up the punches, not overcommitting to his shots in an effort to not get countered, to finish the fight on his feet and last as long as he could. And that was working for a while, until he got caught. And now Sergey seems to think that he can bravado and machismo his way to a second fight. Not even a fight. What really is just a second payday, because that's what he's after. He's after the money the same way all those other guys are after the money. If you're Sergey, another loss, that's right around the corner, because you're on the back nine, my friend. They decide to feed you to a Dmitry Bivol or even a Zerto Ramirez, in all likelihood, you're gonna lose.
Golden Boy still owes him a fight.
So I wouldn't rule that out. And if you're Sergey, losing to Zerto don't pay you the same way that losing to Canelo pays you. And that's why this frivolous call-out has been issued.
Won't amount to anything.
And this whole bit about Sergey not being at his best when he fought Canelo, well, whose responsibility is that? I mean, seriously, whose responsibility is it that Sergey Kovalev is at his best? Is that Canelo's responsibility or Sergey's?
Sergey's.
If the conditions were not to your liking, then why did you accept them?
The money.
Why are you really calling out Canelo Alvarez now? You already fought that guy.
The money.
I mean, unless Sergey's talking about fighting him for free. In other news, per tweet from Mike Coppinger via his sources, Shavkat Rakhimov versus Ogawa, August 20th in Dubai for the vacant IBF junior lightweight title will be streamed live on ESPN+. Rakhimov challenged Jojo Diaz for the title in February, but settled for a draw. Diaz was stripped after missing the weight. And these are two guys, Rakhimov and Ogawa, that have actually challenged for the IBF title, full version of it, more than once. Shavkat against Jojo Diaz and Kenichi Ogawa against Tevin Farmer.
Back in 2017.
If my memory serves me, Kenichi Ogawa actually won a decision against Tevin Farmer that was subsequently overturned due to Kenichi testing positive for a banned substance, and that decision win was overturned into a no contest. And both Kenichi and Shavkat are going to be afforded yet another opportunity to pick up that red belt. ESPN Plus picking up the fight indicates to me that that red belt will be accessible to the guys on their side of things. The winner of Herring-Stevenson versus Jamel Herring. Jamel, the reigning WBO champion. Oscar Valdez, who's going to be in action very soon against Olympic gold medalist Conceição.
Because the WBC champion.
This fight, landing on ESPN Plus, indicates to me that regardless of who wins the red belt, whether it's Kenichi or Shavkat, Oscar and the winner of Herring versus Stevenson, they'll have access to the winner of that fight. They will have access to that champion, and that's relatively good news because the super featherweight division needs consolidation. It needs unification matches.
When's the last time you saw a unified champion at this weight?
This division, much like the featherweight division, the division directly below it, has stood divided for the longest time, and it's about time that those alphabet titles get consolidated. So I view this as good news. Perhaps the fight itself is not all that intriguing, not necessarily, but moving forward,
I mean, it's a good fight.
but it's not a big one. What this fight can do is set the stage for something bigger, something more meaningful to the 130-pound division. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on who emerges as the winner of this fight August 20th by way of ESPN+. Finally, an update on the ongoing situation between the reigning WBO champion Jamel Herring and Herring-Stevenson, the same weight we just talked about. Stevenson talks ongoing, might happen in November. Herring, 35, seems to think that the fight will take place by mid-November. He was quoted as saying, "I was supposed to have an answer 2 weeks ago. Hopefully we'll get more concrete news this week. That's why I've been so quiet on things. I can't really say what's going on at this point. They wanted to make it happen in October, but due to everything getting pushed back, everything being the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder trilogy, it may happen by the second week of November, but I really haven't heard much other than that. I know I'll pretty much be the underdog, but that's what motivates me and takes pressure off of my shoulders," Herring said. "Plus, at this point, it's a familiar role I'm accustomed to. Even as the champion, I just want the win. They can speak all they want, I just want the win." I was expected to move up after my last outing, but there are so many good challenges at junior lightweight, and I want to be a part of those big fights, said Herring. I'm still fighting for credibility, though some would say, out of all the current champions of the division, I have the strongest resume, but I'd rather be underrated than overrated any day. And I'm at peace with the way things have turned out for my career, because I earned everything given to me. I want you guys to think about something here. You got the Shavkat Rakhimov versus Kenichi Ogawa fight set to go down later on
In August.
next month, August. Then you have Oscar Valdez, the reigning WBC champion, set to return to the ring in early September. And things haven't quite materialized between young Shakur and Jamel Herring, the reigning WBO super featherweight champion. And, you know, I like the fight between Jamel and Shakur, if I'm being honest, but I also see an opportunity to finagle something else, perhaps something bigger for Jamel, because if this fight hasn't materialized and it's taking this long, why not have Shakur challenge the winner of Rakhimov versus Ogawa and let Jamel move on to fight Oscar Valdez, or the winner of Valdez versus Conceição? I don't see why it shouldn't happen that way. I don't see why that should be a problem, because we know that Jamel Herring had his heart set on a unification match. And, Shakur, it's a great fight, but that ain't nothing but a mandatory title defense.
I like Shakur.
I'll admit I didn't like his last outing all that much. It was rather ho-hum against Nick Thalia, all things considered. But anybody who knows Shakur knows that he's a quality operator, young guy with a high ceiling, all the makings of what could go on to be a pound-for-pound fighter. He is a good fighter, and a fight with Jamel is a good fight, but it's not as high-octane a fight, high-profile a fight. There's not as much on the line.
There would be in a fight between champions.
Look, I'm just giving it to you straight. It's the only way I know how to give it to you. I do like Herring versus Stevenson, but I like Herring versus Valdez even more, and I'm not going to make any bones about that. I'm not going to apologize for that. I think Herring versus Valdez, or Herring versus the winner of Valdez versus Conceição, is a better fight than the Stevenson fight. And what I think is appropriate for young Shakur Stevenson is to go on and face the winner of Rakhimov versus Ogawa for the IBF title. The only issue with a proposition like that is that currently young Shakur is not ranked by the IBF. But you can get the guy ranked between now and then.
Rakhimov versus Ogawa is late next month.
You get either Lindsey Tucker or Daryl Peoples on the phone and see about getting your guy Shakur Stevenson a rank in the IBF. Get in contact with the winner of Ogawa versus Rakhimov, regardless of who it might be, and see if you can't get Shakur a title shot as a voluntary.
And make it worth the champion's while.
I'm just being honest. I think Herring versus Stevenson is a good fight, but I think a unification match would be better.
Super featherweight needs one.